It was 1966. Bob Dylan was tired of being the voice of a generation. He was tired of being like, I don't know what they call it, like the prophet, the Beelzebub of the beatniks. He had all these nicknames that he came up for himself. He's like, I'm not trying to be the voice of a generation. I'm just a folk singer who is staring into the great abyss crying, and I wrote it down. But instead, he got put on a pedestal. And all these legends got told about him, and he couldn't handle it. But it was a struggle, because the very thing he was made to do and he loved doing created the very tension he didn't want to live with. He loved being on stage and sharing his art with people, but being on stage and sharing his art with people meant he lost anonymity. He said people would come up to him on the streets and feel like they knew him and thought he was approachable. And so he just could not handle the fame. He turned to speed. And the late 60s were a very dark time in the Dylan era. And so he gets out of Greenwich Village, he goes upstate to Woodstock. He's got a tour coming up that his band hasn't practiced for. He's completely overwhelmed, he's strung out on speed, and he rides his motorcycle. And in one of the most foundational experiences of his life, he crashes the motorcycle and nearly dies. After that, Dylan disappeared from the public life for years, which only added to the mystery and allure. Who is this very mysterious person? It was during this time that Dylan had a sort of religious awakening and wrote some of his most biblically echoey songs. One of the songs, which is my favorite, which, by the way, when I was in high school, my high school had like a library. I don't know if high school still have that. But they had all these Rolling Stone magazines, and I opened a Rolling Stone magazine, and a CD fell out of the magazine, and it had Blood on the Tracks on it. And I went home, I listened to it hundreds and hundreds of times. I told a mentor that, and he said, all serious, I don't know if he was serious. He's like, God gave you that CD. So this Blood on the Tracks means an awful lot to me. I know that can be annoying, like Dylan fans talking about. You're like, I don't get it. It's weird. I get it. But I've had many charismatic experiences listening to this album. And I think there's a beautiful invitation in there. Here is what Dylan said, which many Dylan biographers feel is Dylan coming to peace with his idols. He says this: "'Twas in another lifetime, one of toil and blood, when blackness was a virtue and the road was full of mud." Many people think he's talking about what it meant to be famous. "I came in from the wilderness, a creature void of form. Come in," she said, "I'll give you shelter from the storm." Not a word was spoke between us. There was little risk involved. Everything up to that point had been left unresolved. Try imagining a place where it's always safe and warm. "Come in," she said, "I'll give you shelter from the storm. Beauty walks a razor's edge. Someday I'll make it mine. If I could only turn back the clock when God and her were born. Come in," she said, "I'll give you shelter from the storm." Yahweh wants to give you shelter from the storm. You were not made to be stuck in the treadmill cycle of guilt, trying harder, failing, and then trying to work up the energy to muster to do it again. The problem with idols is that we'll never reach our potential of who God made us to be with idols. But it's scary to come in and find shelter from the storm.